Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the My Games Recruitment Show, where we are talking about the birth of $1 million recruitment firm. And we have a guest today who built a $1 million recruitment firm in just 1 year, which is very, very impressive. Now, Mike, at this point, I would normally have a little bit of banter, but today, we're on live show at the right time, and we haven't done it on a Monday. So we're just counting this as a win, and we'll move swiftly on.
We will, yes, we will. I don't think there's anything I want to share with you, except I won at golf yesterday on the 18th hole. I don't know. I've got a small PowerPoint presentation. I could just...
Swiftly, let's move on. So this is the point, Mike, where I would normally ask you about why we have our guest on today, but I think that's fairly self-explanatory.
Obvious. I'll tell you why, actually. Camp I've been talking to on and off for over a year now, and I really like his style, I like his approach, but they have achieved what I think a lot of startup businesses want to achieve, and they've done it on purpose. I think $1 million, yeah, you can have some luck in there. Of course you are, lucky breaks, but not $1 million worth of lucky breaks. I don't buy that. They're clearly doing something different, and I wanted him to come on and share what those differences were, and he has agreed to do that. And I should say as well, he comes from Alabama, and it's 6 o'clock in the morning. So he's got up early. He doesn't normally rise until 10:30, 11 or something. Maybe I made that up. I don't know. So, so he's coming on very early to come and share with that. So I'm delighted to welcome Camp to the show.
Here he is. Hello, Camp.
Hello. Good morning.
Because he's pressed the right.
Yeah, very early morning for you, isn't it? So thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, very early. Be patient with me today. I'm excited to be on.
Good. I hope you're drinking lots of caffeine before we started. You're the founder and CEO of Henry North. Obviously, you can see that's not your name. It's your company name. Your firm is Henry North. And you are based in Alabama, I understand, but service clients throughout the continental United States. And you are mostly material handling and industrial automation, I think, but if my understanding is correct, most of the people that you place are go-to-markets, or the majority of them are in that space. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us about your business, or anything you might have missed or got wrong there, which happens occasionally?
Yeah, no sweat. Well, again, thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here today. And Mike, no, that's correct, right? So just about a year ago, started Henry North, a search firm serving, to your point, the material handling and industrial automation industries. This is an industry in which I really spent the entirety of my career within, and then just recently jumped ship from the corporate race, if you will, to start this search firm. And yes, as referenced, the majority of the roles that we help our clients fill are sales or go-to-market in some way, shape, or form. So excited to talk more about that today.
Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, Kirsty's got some questions she wants to ask you. I did just want to draw upon something that you said there, that not only are you a year into your business career of owning your own business and running that, but if my understanding is correct, that's also your recruitment career. So you weren't a recruiter before you started Henry North. Is that correct?
Yeah, close. So right out of college, Mike, I spent just a couple of years doing some staffing work. So in Atlanta, Georgia, cubicle life, 100 calls a day. So I did that for about 24 months, and I really enjoyed it. I think it pushed me out of whatever comfort zone I had found myself in college. It was a beautiful start to my career. But yes, gosh, that was, what that was 12, 13 years ago. So little to no experience as a recruiter, certainly no experience owning my own firm.
Which I think makes the $1 million claim even more remarkable, actually. I think that track record is even more remarkable because most people that start rec firms have worked for someone else for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years or longer, and they've learned a lot about recruitment, although they often lack the necessary business acumen. They soon pick that up, obviously, but they know about recruitment. You've had to do both, haven't you? You've had to learn a business, of course, that's a thing, and at the same time, freshen up and refresh your recruitment experience as well.
No doubt about it. What we have had going for us, which we'll talk a lot about today, I'm sure, though, is familiarity in the industry that we now serve. So while we may have had to start a few steps back in terms of our recruiting experience, we're 10 steps ahead in terms of knowledge of the industry that we serve.
Amazing. Okay. And that kind of leads into the sort of first thing that I want to talk about, which is you've had the experience around recruitment, back in the day, and then you were in the corporate world. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of how you set up with your business partner, and sort of tell us a bit about your startup story, if we can call it that?
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to. I think the entrepreneurial flame has always burned brightly within. So the entrepreneurial bug was going to bite me eventually. And here about a year ago, it did. As referenced earlier, I spent the past 10 years with a single employer in this industry, material handling. So this is forklifts and other industrial automation equipment that go into that industrial sector. And yeah, about a year ago, we really saw an opportunity to help organizations in our space evolve as the market is mandating said evolution. We took a sales team from maybe 35 sales professionals to 55 or 60. And through that transition over the past couple of years, we recognized there was a lot of companies in our space attempting to do the same, but really struggling with where to go and how to do it. So we spotted that massive opportunity. I found a co-founder who we'll talk a lot about today, and together we decided to take the entrepreneurial leap of faith, which has been a blast.
Amazing. Okay, I like that. I like it. It almost feels like it was meant to be. So I very much appreciate that. Now, you did mention your partner, and we will be coming on to that a little bit later, as well as kind of various other things. But I want to start with something that you've mentioned a little bit, which is that you really understand the market that you work in, like really, really. You have an incredibly strong niche there. So how important do you think that niche is to the results that you've sort of seen and how successful your business has been?
Yeah, Kirsty, for us, it's been nearly everything. And it's honestly a big part of what fueled the starting of Henry North. We have all had recruiters reach out to us, both as candidates and as clients, as hiring managers. And oftentimes they don't really know the industry in which they're attempting to serve. They can try to say things that make them seem that way, but it's typically very transactional in nature. There is not industry insider knowledge. And as a result, in their effort to find you the talent that you and your team need, there's just a gap. For us, we saw an opportunity to bring that true industry insider awareness and knowledge to the market as people that have been the candidates, as people that have been the hiring managers. We have been in the seats and the shoes of both the candidates and clients that we now serve. So that niche has been everything for us. It has been the primary fuel, if you will, of our success in our first year.
Can I unpack that a little bit? Because when I ran my first business, which was an IT business, I only employed consultants who'd been IT people. Right? That was the deal. I think we had 2 or 3 that weren't, but most of them, like me, had come through IT and then gone into recruitment. And I wondered, in those days, and I wondered if it's still relevant, there were 2 really big benefits. One was around nomenclature. You could use the words that people could understand and relate because you'd been in that job very often. You'd been hiring at some point and you knew the things that sat below the buzzwords, if I can put it that way. There was a connection that you could get with people because they could say something and you understood it. It's like if they asked for something, if we were taking a vacancy down, they could ask for something. I just knew what that meant. I didn't have to go and look it up or talk to people. And this was days before the internet. There was no Google. So you had to kind of look things up if people asked for things that you didn't know what they were. Do you think that's been a benefit to you too?
Yeah, no doubt about it, for sure. We can kind of speak the language of these people that we're helping support. And I think that carries a lot of weight, right? It adds a bit of merit to us and our mission and our claims in which we can, what we can do and how we add value. So undoubtedly, Mike.
And the other area that I found very useful as well was people were prepared to talk to me when I started and then the people I employed because we had been in the space. We'd had the same job as them. So it wasn't just the fact that it was easier to kind of convey what you wanted and for us to be able to understand a decent CV from an average CV. We'll talk about that later, I know. But I think there is this, you're the same as us. Most of the people ring us up are effectively salespeople who've learnt, in my case, IT, in your case, material handling, but you are pure material handling. So again, has that been a big thing? And also, if it has, how do you think people could achieve that? is it just by employing the people that they serve? Is that what you would suggest, or what?
Yeah, I think employing people that have experience in that industry that you're attempting to serve, but I think it goes back to the selection of your niche before you start your firm, right? Ideally, you are spending tons of times in that point of research and dedication to consideration of which direction you're going to take your new firm. Most people throughout their career are going to have ties to some piece of industry. And I would strongly encourage you to go and find whichever that piece is that you're closest to and start your search firm there. Mike, the relationships that we have been able to tap into as a result of being in this industry for so long have been critical for us. So I mean, if we went and started Henry North and we were serving industry agnostic accountants, for instance, we would have not had the success that we have this year. So it's critical.
I mean, just on that as well, I'm going to talk about business relationships, I think, in a second, but leading into that, have you drawn upon your network that you built prior to setting up Henry North of people in that industry that you must have known? Have you leveraged that network, do you think, as part of your success?
Mike, I would say 80% of our revenue in our first year has come as a result of the network that I had built in the prior 10 years before starting Henry North. So not only is the answer yes, it's very firmly yes. It is the majority of our revenue.
What I love about that is we often get people talking about niche and they want to find a niche or create a niche. And I think I really want to pull up the timescales that you're talking about. You didn't just kind of start working in this industry 6 months ago and then go, oh, I know some people, let's start. You've spent, a decade building these relationships, creating that understanding, immersing yourself in that market because you worked in it. But even so, to get a true niche, to understand that kind of true power of it, you do have to allocate time and effort to it. And I think you've really kind of highlighted that perfectly in this, and you get a very much powerful from it, but it does take time and effort and work to build it.
No doubt about it. Yeah, a decade of time in the industry and time climbing the ranks within the industry. Certainly not God's gift to earth, but we were respected leaders in this industry. And this industry that I serve is very tight knit. So we were viewed and well known as good leaders in our space. So Chrissy, you're all over it. And also I'll add, I'm not naive that oftentimes people are ready to start a search firm before they have spent 10 years in a certain industry doing sales or whatever they were doing. So this opportunity that we have been able to leverage or tap into doesn't exist for all, but just getting the closest thing possible to it in terms of what is available to you, what you are closest to would be my primary advice.
I'll tell you something else on this, right, just to kind of widen this out a little bit before we press on to the next point. Well, we're kind of in the next point now, actually. Things in the UK in terms of recruitment aren't brilliant right now. Okay, so the market isn't as buoyant as it has been, and there's a lot of uncertainty and so on and so forth. The companies that are doing really well right now are either those who are lucky, genuinely, they've just got some clients where there's a buzz of vacancies and they're kind of filling these vacancies and making money. The other ones are those people that have a very strong network in a defined niche. It's very hard to have a strong network unless it is in a niche because it gets too disparate. And I wondered if, for you obviously have built that network outside. How do you maintain that network now? I mean, do you go and see people? What do you do? How do you manage those business relationships?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it's been a bit of a challenge that we're still trying to navigate today. The reason being is when you change from being an industry insider as a respected leader to now a search firm owner, some of that network now views you differently, right? And for better or for worse, you are now a recruiter. And the typical history of their relationships with recruiters has not been typically very fond. So that has been a challenge. And I think, Mike, I think it's just all things relationship building 101, right? Yeah, it's conversations, it's communication, it's adding value when they don't necessarily pay for or ask for or even think that they need it, but you're delivering market insights proactively. Also, branding, I think, has served a big role in that. Mike, you can brand yourself as the industry expert that you are and you need to be in the eyes of your perceived customer or your prospect. And that's been a big piece of our journey, too, to stay in front of that network more so than we'd be capable of if we were purely just picking up the phone or traveling to see them.
It's more difficult in the United States because it's such a big land mass. I mean, in England, everywhere is 2.5 hours away, really, you know, so it's easier to go and see people. But in the US, it's kind of hard, really, unless you've got concentrations of people in various cities. You can go and see 4 or 5 people at once on one trip. It is difficult. But I think here there is a reversion to going out and seeing people again, because no one's doing it. We're all doing this. We're all doing video calls. And so we don't need to. We can see your face. We can have a chat. But actually, it's those people that are going out now and actually going to see people, not necessarily for work meetings, but just, oh, well, you know, we've been speaking for so long, haven't really met. So why don't I come and see you? And we'll have a bite to eat, or a breakfast, or a cup of tea or something, or a cheeky half of beer after work, maybe. Or is it, am I locked in the 1990s, Kirsty?
A little bit, yeah, I think a little bit, yeah.
Whatever. Right, whatever. But I do think, and I don't know whether you do this, it is difficult, I know, because of the size of the business, the size of the US. But do you actually get out to see people and talk to people and kind of just get out? What the expression that was told, get off the operational highway into the relationship rest area, which I really like, and to get away from work necessarily, just talk to them as people. Do you get much chance to do that?
We sure do. Not as much as I would like, Mike, if I'm being honest, but we do it. And you know what happens when you find yourself in that relational rest area is your creativity blossoms again. When you're stuck behind the screen and you're grinding 10 or 12 hours a day, which we certainly have been for a year now, your creativity can kind of fall by the wayside, and the business suffers as a result. When you hop on a plane, you go have a couple of pints with a prospect or a client, all of those juices come back, and it can be very beneficial for the business, as well as obviously just meeting with your people in person. So yeah, we're doing it maybe once a month or so. I wish it was more, but it's enjoyable for sure.
I think it's difficult. It is difficult to get out, because you think, oh well, if I'm going to get out, that's a day, you know, and well, I could spend that day on the telephone or whatever. But actually, you do get a lot more from it. I went to see my coach. My coach doesn't mean anything to you, but lives in the northwest of England. So whenever I have my coaching sessions with him, it's on Teams. But I happened to be in that area, so we had a session face to face. It was completely different, like 10 times better. It shouldn't have been. There's no reason for it to be, but it just was. And I think I came back so pumped up about the things we talked about, which we probably wouldn't have done on video. So I think the same applies in relationships, business relationships in general, really. Get out and see people is what I say.
I do kind of want to build on what you said earlier, Camp, where you said that people's thoughts of you would slightly change now that you've changed industry, because it is something that in recruitment we find often. You know, there's this reputation that recruiters sometimes get that isn't particularly very positive. And I want to know kind of how you combated that with those people that you're kind of trying to strengthen those relationships with.
Yeah, I think it's just staying true to who we are, right? I think we pride ourselves in being very sincere and authentic, just good, normal human beings. I tell my team each morning, I say, hey, guys, go be good, normal dudes today. And I know that sounds silly, but in a world today of AI-generated blast outreach, you can really separate yourself in terms of, maintaining people's perspective of you or perception, but also in terms of growing business. If you just do that, if you make sure to infuse all outreach, all networking, all relationship building with true sincerity, not fake, not materialized, true, sincere, authentic outreach. So that's been a big piece of how we've stayed close to and in tune with our market.
Okay, perfect. Now, in a second, I want to start talking about business partners, because it's one of those things that when it goes well, it goes really well. And if it goes not so well, it goes very much not so well. But before then, Mike, I believe we have a message from our sponsor, who's us again.
Yeah. That's us. Yeah. We did have a sponsor, actually, but we prefer to do it ourselves, really. So let me go through this. We have a Zoom webinar coming up. And essentially what we did was some analysis on all of the projects that I've run over the years. And there's been lots of them, well over 150 now, I think. Plus all the other bits of information we get from our events that we run and all the rest of it. And we identified actually 20 reasons that recruitment companies don't continue to grow. You know, it's not just growing, it's continuing to grow and see the profits going at the same rate as the revenues are growing. And what we've done is picked out the top 5, really. We picked out the things that matter. And I just want to share with you what they are, because I think if you're in a position where your business isn't growing in the way that you want, there's a very good chance the stuff we're going to cover will be relevant to you. So let's just very quickly look at some of the things that we'll be talking about in this session. So we're going to explain how you can convert more vacancies into fees, because if you're not retained, a lot of the work that you do, contingent, doesn't result in a fee, which is not really what you want. That's wasted effort. We also want to talk about building a stable and productive team. And I'm telling you on that one, our advice is going to be counterintuitive and opposite to what most industry specialists say. But in my experience, not just in my own life, but also in the people that we support, it's the way forward. So if your team is volatile, comers and goers, you might like to tune into that. We also want to talk about getting more of the ideal vacancies, because in many cases, as Camp was just talking about that, it's very important to be niche and to be focused, because you'll get more revenue if you do that. We also want to discuss how you can become the first choice agency, because many recruiters are not in that hallowed position. They're one of many, or sometimes they're at the back end if everybody else has failed, and give those guys a go. There is a very specific way that you can become the first choice agency, and I'm going to explain to you what that is. And then finally, we want to talk about management by exception. Okay, so we want to talk about how you manage that business, but not as a micromanager, but also not as a hands-off, I'm not sure what's going on, I'm sure it'll all be okay kind of manager. It's called manager by exception. So if you're interested, and this is just a sample of the things that we're going to talk about, then it's the 23rd of October. It's 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. London time, and it's free. All right. So there's some depth to this, right? So 2.5 hours. We have a break halfway through, but there is some depth. If you would like to come, then all you need to do is email or webinar to mike@flair.co.uk. That's mike@flair.co.uk. And we will send you a link. You can read more, and if you like it, you can register, and then you can come. So hopefully that's
spelled F-L-A-I-R.
Yes, it is. Well done, Kirsty.
Yeah, family full of dyslexic people. I get used to spelling things out. Okay, right. Thank you very much. So we hope to see you there at the webinar. It's going to be a good one. But now, Camp, back to you. So as I mentioned, and you've mentioned kind of a couple of times as well, you have a business partner. So as I mentioned, sometimes it's gone well, sometimes not so well. So can you talk a little bit about how you set up with your partner, and then we'll delve a little bit deeper?
Yeah, of course. Excited to talk about it. They say the ship that sinks is oftentimes a partnership. So we were very cautious of that, aware of that saying.
Yeah.
My co-founder is a gentleman named Scott Smith. Scott and I actually met in our corporate time together. He was an associate of the same organization that I was a part of for a decade. Scott actually worked for me. I was a director of sales, and he was a sales leader below me in the Atlanta market. Scott and I hit it off from the moment we met. Professionally, him and I worked together at a level that I have never experienced in my professional life. And I've worked with plenty of people, as you can imagine, over the years, but this one felt different. This relationship was different from the get-go. Together we decided to start Henry North, and it's been a huge piece of the success that we have had. Scott and I are very, very different. Scott is analytical, data-oriented, process-driven. He is very steady Eddie, even keel. I'm none of those things. I'm a roller coaster of emotion. I am up and down. I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. And there's many other differences between the two of us. But what we've learned, and I think what we predicted, was that those differences would offset each other very, very well. And boy, have they. So I could go on and on, but it's been fantastic.
I've got a question on this, really, because I've had loads of partners over the years in different businesses that I've run, and by and large they've all gone well. None of my partnerships have been bad. Some have been more productive than others, but I think two things I would say is that sometimes people rush into partnership too soon. So they've got some people working for them and not in the previous life, but as a kind of consultant, and they think, yeah, let's go and set up a business on our own. They don't really know them very well. And so it starts okay, but then the rails start to come off. The other thing I've noticed about partnerships, and I'm a big fan, I love partnerships. You know, wouldn't like to do this on my own. The other thing I've noticed is that you start off in the same place, but often drift apart, not in a way that's noticeable. Each stage is so small, it's not recognizable from the last stage, but eventually you're in different places. And I think it's important to tie in every now and again and to say, are we in the right place? Are we heading in the same direction? Do we both want the same thing from this business? Do you and Scott do that on a regular basis?
We do, Mike. Yeah, such a good point. In our quarterly review sessions, which we actually have one this week on Thursday, which I'm excited about, our Q3 huddle, if you will. So we recap the prior quarter. We look at the future, but the first agenda item every quarter for Scott and I is a partner check. We check on each other, we check on each other's personal lives, we check on each other's ambition and goals for what we're building. We speak vulnerably about what we wished would have went differently. We challenge each other about what we would like to see more or less of from the other. So it's a relationship just like it would be with your spouse or your child. The communication and the transparency is absolutely everything.
I'm glad to, and I didn't know that before I asked the question, obviously, but I'm glad because the partnerships that I've seen go wrong, and very often, very often, it's happened probably half a dozen times, I get hired by one of the partners because it's gone wrong to help sort it out, basically. And that sort it out means get the other person out of the frame. And often it could have been avoided, I always felt, if you'd kept in check and realized that there was a difference of opinion and dealt with it really early on before it turns ugly. So I think that's a really good thing to do. Regularly check in with partners if you have them.
For sure.
Just one other quick question about partners as well is that, well, not a question, it's a statement, and then just I want you to build on it a little bit if you can. You mentioned that you were very different, and I think that's really important. But my question is, do you have clearly defined areas of responsibility that you don't interfere with each other? So for example, I don't know, with Scott, maybe he's the MD of back office and you're the MD of front office and sales, maybe, you know, but you've got very clear ideas of where you sit and who does what, or is it a bit loosey-goosey?
I'd say yes and no, Mike. I mean, I think in the first year of entrepreneurship, you can relate to this. Like everyone is wearing every hat possible, right? We're all mopping the floors. So there's definitely overlap in terms of what each of us are doing, but we do play to our strengths and avoid our weaknesses, right? So for instance, like business development and sales is my thing. So I'm doing more of that. Scott and his process-driven mindset is very good at delivery and leading our delivery team. So there's definitely some tendencies there. I'm very organized in terms of bookkeeping and invoicing and kind of keeping the T's crossed, if you will. So I naturally go and take all of that stuff. So yeah, I think naturally we've kind of gone separate ways, but I will add for sure that there's some overlap in our first year of existence, just trying to stay alive.
That makes sense.
As the business matures, you go through transition points, T points. First T point is the first member of staff. The next T point is when you get to about 8 to 10 people, can be around about that sort of figure. And that's when it starts to be more formal, because if you don't make it more formal, things can just start to unravel a little bit there. How many people have you got? I should have asked this in the opening. I'm sorry. How many people are in the team now?
There's 5 total. So Scott and I and 3 others.
Wow.
Yeah. So kind of, it's growing quite well.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm aware of the time. So I do want to move on, because one of the biggest things when you're running a recruitment company is you kind of have 2 sets of clients, right? You have your clients that give you vacancies and vacancies that you want to work and can fill, but you also need to find good candidates, which, you know, in a market like this, in certain industries, can be really, really difficult. So I want to talk to you a little bit, Camp, about how you kind of find your candidate. Let's talk about candidates first. Like, how are you finding these candidates that are good, that are allowing you to fill these vacancies and kind of make all of this profit that we talked about?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I don't know that we are reinventing the wheel. Now, I'll start with that. But I'll add a couple of things. One is I spoke earlier about authenticity and outreach to both candidates and clients. That is a massive part of our approach to candidates. The candidates in our space, and really in any space at this point, are getting hit with 10 or 15 messages from recruiters a week. And I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they are abysmal, right? They are clearly copy and paste. There's no research done on the history of that person's professional career. They're pitching a job that in no way, shape, or form even matches anything they would ever be interested in. So these candidates are now very calloused to poor outreach from recruiting firms. We are infusing it with authenticity and research, and it may slow us down in terms of the volume of candidates that we can touch daily and weekly. But what it gains for us in return is just profound. So that's one thing that we're doing in terms of how we're winning in candidate outreach. The other one is branding. We've talked about this niche a ton, right? But we're also branding ourselves as industry experts in this space, meaning that good quality candidates are now coming to us. If you build the machine appropriately, candidates and clients come to you. You don't have to purely go and get them. So there's much more, I think, to that answer, Kirsty, but those are two things that jump out to me.
I think on that, though, again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, niche matters, doesn't it? If you are covering too many markets or too many job role types, then you're not really, your brand is quite diffused. It's like, metaphorically, you're putting your flag up on this hill and saying, this is me, if you want this, I'm the guy. So do you think that niche has played a part in that, attracting candidates?
For sure. It's everything, right? But because of our voice in this niche, and the niche being tight enough in which we can truly be viewed as the people in this space to help with career moves and transitions, it's everything. Yeah, for sure. If we were trying to serve something larger than what we are, all of that would be diluted, to your point, and the value would not be there.
Okay, and then sort of building on that, when it comes to
vacancies, do you engage with candidates?
Sorry, you go, Mike. You go. There's a bit of a delay on you, I think. You go, Mike. You go.
No, you go.
Oh, okay. I will go.
I was just going to ask.
You go, Mike.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
Bit of a delay with me. Yeah, sorry about that. Do you engage with candidates even when they're not looking for a job? Do you start the relationship before a vacancy is live and somebody's actively looking? Do you do that, or do you just engage with people seeking roles?
Of course we do, yeah. And not only to play the long-term game of true relationship building, trusting that we will help them at some point in their long career ahead, but also, Mike, because those are the candidates that our clients are looking to hire, right? These are the ones that are happily employed, hitting quota, making good money. You know, our clients don't want the people that are actively looking. Typically, they don't typically want the people that are applying to the job boards. They want the killers that are in the market, happily employed, and those are the ones that we're trying to hunt down.
Yeah, that's very true for go-to-market, any type of go-to-market person. But I think that the estimate is that about 60% of any particular job role are what's called passive but open. So they're not looking for a job, but you know, if you come up with the right job at the right company, they're open to a conversation about it. And that really is where the big money is made, I think, in targeting passive but opens, as opposed to the 20% of people who are actively looking, as you say, all over the job boards. It's very interesting to say that. And you would do that predominantly through LinkedIn. Would that be your route?
Yeah, LinkedIn is our roots for identifying the candidates, but we've got some software involved that helps us manage our outbound sequence to that group of candidates, that passive pool. And within that is everything from a phone call to a text message to an email, et cetera. So we're hitting them very multi-pronged, if you will.
Okay. And I kind of want to build on that now with vacancies, because one route of getting kind of the vacancies that you want is to go in with a really good person, or are you winning kind of clients and then getting multiple vacancies from the clients? How are you finding these vacancies?
Yeah, winning clients first, 98% of the time. We're doing little. We need to do more, frankly, right? And we're learning how to find the time and avenue in which to do it, but to market candidates to clients. Most often we're getting the business from the client and then working hard to add value to them. As referenced earlier, I would say 80% of our business, of the vacancies that we are honored to fill, have come as a result of relationship and networking in this industry that we know so well. The remaining 20% has come as a result of just true outbound, right? So we've built a bit of a sales machine, just like we have a candidate outreach machine that's running at all times, and that has resulted in the remaining 20% there.
Typically, if you run the data, most recruitment companies, in fact, most companies of any size, normally 20% of their clients generate 80% of their revenues. Typically, that's how it flows, or a lesser number or fewer clients generate the majority of the revenue. And of those, what we call 20%ers, those smaller in number but larger in revenue, the vast majority of those people come to relationships, something like 90-odd%. I can't remember the figures now. So it really is the higher value clients, and the revenue mostly is relationship driven. So I'm not surprised that you kind of say clients first, vacancies second. I think that's a really cool way to grow a business, I think.
Okay, all right. Now, I want to move on to this last point, and it's interesting because I think this has been threaded through all of the other things that we've spoken about today, is standing out. In recruitment, often one of the hardest things is what we all do is find a person and give them to the client. That's sort of the same amongst everybody. So being able to stand out and be different to competitors enough that your client goes, oh yeah, okay, or to not be the kind of bad reputation that we've spoken about previously. So what is it that you think that you do that makes you stand out from your competitors the most?
Yeah, Kirsty, good question. And I think to the listeners, you're going to hear, to your point, some repetitiveness in my answer, but know that it's you're hearing these consistent themes for a reason, right? Like these are truly the core foundational pieces of what have resulted in our success. So number one for sure is being viewed as true industry insiders, right? So it's the domination of a certain niche. It's coming from the industry that we now serve. That is above all number one. Number two would be, as referenced, the aggression paired with authenticity, both in outreach to candidates and clients. The combo, or the intersection of aggressive outreach with authentic tones has been massively important to us. Number three would be that I think our clients understand that it takes sales talent to find sales talent. So with the majority of our vacancies being go-to-market related, they view us as sales professionals. We have been sales peers of theirs in this industry. They know that at our core, we are salespeople, and they respect our ability to go and hunt salespeople as a result of our own sales tendencies. So I think that's been a big message that has been received well. And the final one is branding, right? So we're very active on LinkedIn for a lot of reasons, but it has been very powerful for us in terms of candidates and clients and how they perceive Henry North and the value add that we can be.
I think that last point is worth digging around a bit. Can you share what you actually do on LinkedIn? Could you just share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, honestly, Mike, I try to be myself. I try to take what I see and learn in the market and give value back to the folks that follow. Sometimes that's in the form of interview tips for people going through the process. Oftentimes, however, it's tips for sales leaders in our space who are navigating the challenges of expectations to build and grow sales teams. So yeah, I try to be authentic and real, I think, above all else.
Do you get the team to comment as well, or is this just you and Scott, your business partner, or do you encourage the team to promote things? In which case, what guidelines do you give to them?
Yeah, it's mainly Scott and I. We do encourage our team, the other three, to do it. Transparently, have yet to latch onto it. I would say as this thing grows and blossoms, it'll be a big piece of what our expectations of our team members become, for sure, because it's just so powerful. It has to be tapped into.
Mm-hmm. Mike, any final thoughts before I kind of move us on to the rounding up, because we are coming towards the end now?
Yeah, I know we have to talk about next week's show as well, but I just want to reflect. I've been listening to you, and we've had a conversation off air, and of course we were talking about this in previous discussions that we've had. What I'm picking up really is, number one, focus. Number two, authenticity. Number three, relationships. And number four, actually being good at getting the right bum for the right seat. That if I was going to sum it up, what I've heard, it would be those four things. Would you agree with that, I think?
Yeah, Mike, for sure. It's hard to add much there. I think you're all over it.
There you go.
Yeah,
It's
well,
not rare you're succinct like that, Mike.
I know, but I'm just, I've watched Henry North grow from when there were just the two of you, and I've seen the things that are going out, and I really like, I like what I'm seeing. But then when I learned the kind of results that you delivered, it's not just a nice company doing the right things, it's actually seeing a big growth curve. I think it's important to just boil it down to those simplistic, simple focuses. If you do the right things with the right people long enough, you are going to be successful. The big problem that we have, I think, is people try and do too much. They try and cover too much ground. When you see an opportunity, most people say, well, can I do that? And if the answer is yes, they do it. It's wrong. Then others say, well, can I do that? Yes. Should I do that? Yes, I should do it. So they do it, and that can be wrong. When you're looking at opportunities, it's can I do it? Yes. Should I do it? Yes. Should I do it now? And it's that last one, really. I should do it. I can do it, but now is the wrong time. And the more you can focus and keep focused, I think, and just say no to more stuff, the more successful you'll be. It gets harder as you grow. I mean, it just does. There's no question about that. But niche is the number one thing. I think I agree with that.
All right. Okay. So in a second, I am going to be coming to your official top tip camp. But before then, Mike, can we talk about the show that we are running in 2 weeks, our next show?
Well, it's as though we planned this and we didn't. We just throw this show together. Camp was talking about personal brand and branding in general. And we've got the world famous Andrew McCaskill, who's coming on the show. And he's going to come and talk to us about building a personal brand for recruiters, but without the BS, because there's a lot of BS out around there. There's a lot of people out there talking about stuff which is just nonsense, really. Well, he's going to cut through the quick and tell us how to build a brand. And as you can see from Camp, as I said, we didn't plan it this way. Brand is a big part of his success. So I think that's one to put in your diaries for next time.
Yeah, we are very excited. Andrew's very good, obviously. So, okay, Camp, we're coming kind of towards the end of the show now. And as I mentioned, we always like to have a top tip. So people who are watching this, who are either where you were a year ago, or perhaps they are kind of further on in their journey, but want to replicate the kind of things that you've done. Somebody's sitting there and thinking, I want to do those things, Camp. I want to do those things. What is your top tip for them? What's the thing that you think has had the most effect for you?
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Kirsty, I've the absolute pleasure being on today. I'm going to give you two, even though it's supposed to be one. One is niche for sure. We've talked about it ad nauseum today, but it's everything. It really is, right? So be less to less people would be my primary point of advice, and say no to things that are outside of that world and that bubble. And you're going to recognize quicker growth and success as a result of your ability to say no. And then the other one would be authenticity. I think today and for the decade ahead, it's going to be everything. So if you have maybe glided away from your roots of authentic outreach and interaction, of true relationship building efforts, find your way back to it. Let it be your North Star. It's everything in today's climate.
I think that's even more important with the world of AI. AI can generate stuff quick in the blink of an eye, but much of it lacks authenticity. And now is the time to, I think, as we were talking about right at the beginning, to do things that AI can't do. Focus on what it can't do and do more of that. It can't come out and see you. It can't ring you up and take the mickey about the last football result or soccer result that you got. It can't learn about you as a person and react to that information. It can't do any of those things in the way that human beings can. And you can't beat AI doing what AI does. You can't. But it just lacks authenticity. And I think now is the time to dig deep and do the things that AI can't. And that really will build up your authenticity significantly. Pick up the phone. That's what, well, AI can do that, but it's AI. So you can't really pick up the phone. I think it makes a big difference.
I think Chris has really summed it up here. He says, I think Camp's point about having a focus on a real specialism is vital in today's recruitment point. And I think leaning that 100%. And you add that into the authenticity. And I think you're probably going to be mostly unstoppable there. I think it's probably the case. Okay, so we have come to that time of the show where it is the end. So I do want to thank, first of all, everybody for watching. We really, really appreciate you being here with us. We're on our 5th season now, our 6th season maybe, I think. So really appreciate you all being here and for your comments. Thank you very much. I want to say a huge thank you to Camp for being here, for being really open and honest and sharing kind of your thoughts for the last year. So thank you so much for being here, Camp.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys. Absolute joy today. I've really enjoyed it.
Good. And I suppose I should thank Big Mike as well for being here, just being fabulous, you know?
Yeah, you know, I'm old and creaking, smell of cabbage, but I can still turn a few words from time to time, you know. No, I just want to say before you go, two things. Well, thank you, Kirsty, of course, for being the hostess with the mostess. We must get that logo changed to the Kirsty Ames Recruitment Show. I don't know why that's not been done.
Changing it back.
Must look into that. But also for Camp, he's been brilliant. It's been open and shared with us what the secrets to his success have been. And of course, he's done it at 6 o'clock in the morning. So respect to you, Camp, for that. Very, very, very grateful that you're doing it. Thank you.
Thank you.